Hi there, I'm Sam Schick with Junk Removal Authority, and I'm here today to answer some questions that we get all the time on the internet about the junk removal service. Let me first go into a few questions and just kind of take them one by one, but these are the most common that we hear. The first one is junk removal business profitable? Well, it is. If it's done right, and like any business, if you watch your cost versus what you're bringing in, you can run this business very profitable. In fact, that was one of the things that we concentrated on in my business was not only the top line sales, because that's all well and good, but really the bottom line sale is what you bring to the bank. So don't brag about the top line, brag about the bottom line. And in the junk removal business, it's very healthy. Next one is junk removal tax deductible? That's a great question, because a lot of people think that since we picked it up and we're donating it as a junk removal company, that we can take the break as far as on our taxes. No, it's absolutely not. Since we never purchased it, and technically we never gave money for it, it's not ours. We're just the carrier of bringing it to a donation center. So as many times as we were asked that question, and I even asked the question, it's not something a benefit that we were able to take advantage of because we never owned it. Does that make sense? It should. Let's look at the next question. Is junk removal a good side hustle? That's an interesting question also, because junk removal, as you can make it as difficult and as profitable as you want to make it. And the beauty behind it is we have people that because they may not have a great deal of capital to put into it, they get a pickup truck and a trailer, and that's how they get into it. And they can evolve into a dumping truck, and they can evolve into a larger company. People get into it for a pretty minimal cost. And then there's others that get into it where they buy 2 trucks right away. They spend maybe $100,000 to $250,000 on just getting it started. I can only tell you that it is a good side hustle that can turn into a main hustle for a lot of people. But there's also there's 2 forms here. There's one going into the one that isn't as capital intense. That's pretty easy to get into. The other one is where you're putting up capital, so it's not a side hustle. $100,000, $250,000. It's not a side hustle. It's your main hustle. What scales faster? I think what scales faster is the ones that don't look at it just a side hustle, but look at how can I grow to the next level. Whether that's I got my truck and trailer, I'm brand new, but how do I get to the next level of getting a dumping truck? How do I get to the next level of making it look like a professional image? How do I get to the next level of making sure that I'm competing with the bigger guys in the market? That's what you want to look at. So it can be a side hustle that turns into a main hustle, and it can do that really quickly. It depends on what you put into it. Next question we get a lot of is the junk removal business saturated? I started my business in 2004 as a franchise, and back then it wasn't a category anybody was really too familiar with. Now everybody's familiar with it. And yeah, there's a lot of junk removal companies, and they are the ones that had the side hustle, the ones that have a pickup truck and a trailer. And then there's ones that are really polished, 2 truck, 3 truck, 5 truck. There's all different types. But I'll remind you just, back when delivery packages were done by FedEx, UPS, they had it sewed up. Even the United States Post Office had it all sewed up. Where did Amazon come from all of a sudden? Why did Amazon, all of a sudden become a brand, a well-known brand right away? Wasn't it saturated? Weren't there a lot of delivery companies? So realize that there's always room for a good player. So I don't think it's saturated anywhere near close, but I do think to become a good player in this space, you've got to be professional. You've got to have everything, your I's dotted, your T's crossed, because I'm not asking you as before to reinvent the junk removal business. Copy the ones that are really successful. And it's all about image, it's all about brand, and it's all about impressions. How many people see your brand and call you? We have other questions. We're not done yet. We have others. So these are some other questions. Why is junk removal so expensive? So expensive is kind of an interesting thought. The people that I hired on were young fellows between 18, 27, and young women too, that probably didn't have the disposable income to take this kind of service and be able to use it themselves. It's expensive because you look at it that way, but really what it is the relief factor. People are willing to spend that kind of money for relief. And I'll give you another, for instance. It wasn't until I went on vacation that I had somebody cut my own lawn. But once they did it, and at the time, this was a while back, it was only like $35 to cut my lawn. Why would I give up a weekend to cut my own lawn when I could pay somebody $35 and get it done? So realize that there are people out there, they may have the ability or they may not, but they have the disposable income. They are going to treat themselves well, and they're going to pay for the relief. I mean, who wouldn't pay for a good cup of Starbucks? And certainly a lot more than you'd pay at McDonald's for a cup of coffee. So, is it too expensive? In my mind, it's worth every penny. As a provider of junk removal, I want to make sure that I bring the value. So it's not expensive, it's just I bring the value. What do junk removal companies do with the junk? New business owners will always want to know, what do you do with it? You know, where can you dispose of the junk? The reality is that there's two people that, there's certainly the customer wants to know what you do with the junk. I was always proud of the fact that we recycled, repurposed about 70% of what we picked up. And we did that through resale, donations. Any way that we could avoid the landfill was what we wanted to do. But there are transfer stations, and there are dump sites where you can bring your items to that will accept it. But it's part of doing business as a business owner to know what is the most efficient, cost-efficient, and effective way to dispose of the junk. And the way that I found was obviously look for the cheapest to dump your regular junk. But the other thing is look for the outlets. There's an additional revenue stream from the stuff that we pick up that you can, I encourage business owners to get involved with. But you ask yourself the one question that I answered just today to another business owner, is that you have to ask yourself, if I'm going to repurpose, donate any of the things that I bring in, is it worth my time? Time, space, it's all got to be added into the equation. So to ask that question, what do you do with what do we do with the junk that we pick up? That's probably how I'd answer the best. All right, let's look at the next question. All right. Where do we find junk removal jobs? So where are we getting our jobs? Well, obviously here at Junk Removal Authority, we do a lot of the digital marketing for you to help you in that side of the business. And we do a good job because we know it really well. But the other side of it is, what do you do as far as local print, email campaigns, direct mail campaigns, and the biggest thing is going to be truck-based marketing. What are you doing from the trucks? Again, I've always said we're a sales company, a sales and marketing company that just happened to pick up junk. So when my teams are out there, if they're not doing sales, they're doing marketing. So what do I do to find more junk removal jobs? I'm always constantly marketing my business. But I'm also looking at it as more than just one single bullet. I don't just use Junk Removal Authority for my digital campaign. I also look at the other forms of marketing. I look at direct mail. I look at email marketing campaigns. I look at the local truck team marketing, what they do. So it's kind of a 4 or 5 prong attack. Marketing doesn't work very well when it's a single bullet attack. Use a shotgun, use several different things to get your message. Get your brand out in front of people. That's what it's all about. Junk removal is not a spontaneous purchase. People don't say, oh, a junk removal truck, come here, I got some. They will call you when they need you. And when they need you is when they remember the impression you gave them. The sign on the side of the road, the Post-it note, the email campaign, the Google ads, anything that they can see or remember, that's when they're going to call you. It's a great question. And this is our final question. We're going to look at this question. It says, when is junk removal the busiest? That's a really interesting question. I'll tell you why. Junk removal has an interesting cycle of a business. There are 4 quarters in a year. The first quarter, actually the second quarter during the spring, is our busiest quarter. It's what I call junk Christmas. It's the busiest. People are home. They want to clean up. They want to get ready for the summer. It's the freshness of spring and getting everything new. So it's real busy. It starts off usually around March 15th. But then the third quarter is the second busiest. Fourth quarter is the third busiest. And the one that's the softest is the first quarter. So it is a seasonal business, but having said that, usually what we saw in the first quarter was our commercial clients seemed to really always stay there. But it was the residential clients that they diminished a bit. But it's not the worst quarter. It's not the terrible quarter. You just have to plan for it. So there is seasonality of the business. So here's my caution to you is when you go through the second, third, and fourth quarter and we're doing really well, start putting some money off to the side to cover you and get you through the first quarter, because it can be feast or famine. In this case, famine. You're ready for it. So it does have different seasonality to it. Listen, thanks for watching the YouTube video. I really appreciate that. Hopefully it was helpful. I know some of these tips would have been helpful 15 years ago when I started, but hopefully they're helpful. And a lot of it comes from questions you ask. So down below in the comment section in the YouTube video here, if you have any questions, what I'd like you to do is ask the questions. What we'll do is we'll get back to those every 2 weeks and we'll answer those questions. I know you guys come up with some great questions. I had a lot of questions when I started. So this is going to be a great format. Every 2 weeks, answer questions that you may all have. In fact, I know you all have. So get your answers here every 2 weeks from me.